continuously. And what Brother Neville Johnson preached last night keep on flooding into my mind. Towards the last part of his message, he shared about the Pope visiting the US. So that kept on flooding into my mind. So I was wondering, why is this thing keep on coming into my mind? So I thought perhaps I must get the details from him. But the word keep on coming to me, go on the internet and check the details. So, as I sat before my computer to check that, then suddenly an incident that happened last year came to my remembrance.
Asteroid named Beast. On June 8, 2014, the asteroid 2014 HQ-124, nicknamed the Beast, which was in the size of a football stadium, whizzed nearing the Earth. This asteroid was of irregular surface and measured nearly 370 meters, that is 1,200 feet in size. This was discovered on April 23rd by NASA's Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, a sky mapping space telescope. The Beast traveled at 31,000 miles per hour, which is 17 times faster than a shot from a high-speed rifle.
A new asteroid with the nickname the Beast will be flying by Earth this weekend, and it's cutting it pretty close. According to Space.com, this new asteroid was discovered on April 23, 2014. It's more than a little disconcerting that an asteroid of this size that could do some pretty devastating damage on Earth was only discovered 2 months ago. The asteroid's official name is 2014 HQ-124, but we think calling it the Beast is much more appropriate.
The Beast flew past us on the 8th of June 2014 at a distance of 776,000 miles. This is only 3.25 times the distance from Earth to Moon. HQ-124 is at least 10 times bigger and possibly 20 times than the asteroid that injured 1,000 people last year in Chelyabinsk, Siberia. June 8, 2014, the day the Beast passed by Earth, is the same day Pope Francis makes historic Islamic prayer, Israel-Palestine peace prayer in Vatican, along with Israel President Shimon Peres and Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas. Revelation chapter 17 verse 17. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill His purpose, to be of one mind and to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled.
Why on that particular day, this asteroid, see, NASA could have named it any other names. Of all the names in the world, see, the Bible tells us, like what Brother Neville shared last night, the heavens declare the glory of God. And day after day, they are uttering their speech. And the Bible tells us in Genesis 1:14 that the sun, the moon, and the stars are created for signs. Or the Hebrew word for sign says signal. They are sending out a signal. They are speaking something. So what is this speaking? This is the beast. Is it? So my next question is Pope Francis the prophesied false prophet?
Pope Francis was born on December 17, 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. His original name was Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He's the child of Italian immigrants to Argentina. He's the first Latin American pontiff, the first non-European for nearly 1,300 years. Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope. He's also the first pope to be called as Pope Francis. He chose Francis as his name in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint of Italy, which is Pope Francis's native country. He became the first pope in 600 years to be appointed as 266th pope when the previous pope was alive. On February 11, 2013, Pope Benedict XVI resigned the papacy. He did so after he claimed that God asked him to do so. Hours after Pope's shock resignation, a lightning struck the roof of St. Peter's Basilica.
March 4, 2013, I attended a broadcast conference in Nashville, Tennessee in the US. It was during those days, but particularly on March the 4th, I was sitting at a lecture and there was this Christian broadcaster speaking something about broadcasting. And as I was listening to him, the word of the Lord came unto me concerning the next pope that will be chosen. Now the next pope was elected on March the 13th, 2013. But the word that came unto me was on March the 4th, which was 9 days before the new pope was to be elected. The word of the Lord came unto me concerning the next pope that was going to come. They said the next pope will be a younger person compared to all his predecessors, have good rapport with world leaders, will be knowledgeable on world affairs, very friendly and approachable person to all. Now in the last 2 years, this present pope has passed all what his predecessors have done in his grasp of world affairs and his rapport with world leaders, and a very, very pleasant, friendly, smiling nature.
Just 1 year after being Pope, Pope Francis became the #1 leader in the Fortune magazine's 50 Greatest Leaders for the year 2014. In December, Pope Francis was featured as the Time magazine's Person of the Year in its 2013 edition. The article in Time stated, "Pope Francis, the people's Pope, he took the name of a humble saint and then called for a church of healing." On February 13, 2014, Pope Francis was on the cover page of the American pop culture magazine, Rolling Stone. Vanity Fair Italia also named him Man of the Year. The cover story on Pope Francis noted, "His first 100 days have already placed him in the category of world leaders who make history, but the revolution continues." The New Yorker also put him on the cover following his nomination as Time's Person of the Year. According to the 14th annual survey from the Global Language Monitor in 2013, Pope Francis became the most talked about person on the planet. At the same time, world leaders and religious heads were impressed and appreciated Pope Francis. President Obama said that Pope Francis makes us want to be better people. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon praises Pope Francis as a man of peace and purpose. Dr. Nicholas Nieder, the head of the Council of the Evangelical Church in Germany, has called him hopeful. American pastor James Robinson had said that he believed that the prayers of earnest Christians had helped lead to the choice of Pope Francis. American Cardinal Dolan said that Pope Francis is a Christmas gift for the whole world. Head of the Eastern Orthodox Church, Patriarch Bartholomew I lauded the humble manner in which Pope Francis exercises his ministry. Patriarch said to Francis that he preached with words but above all with love. Pope Francis asks, "If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" Supporting his statement, Elton John said that Pope Francis should be canonized for reaching out to gay people. Pope Francis has notably taken a more liberal stance on homosexuality, divorce, and other issues that have been staunchly condemned by his predecessors. When the Synod of Bishops on the Family 2014 ended with the position of gay marriage and acceptance of gays to the Church, Pope Francis wanted senior Church leaders to look into the issue and to scrutinize the reasons why many countries have legalized same-sex marriages. Due to this, gay Catholics in US are feeling very close to Pope Francis. On August 28, 2015, Pope Francis had sent his blessings to a lesbian author of children's book, Jean Has Two Mummies, wishing her and her wife well in their work. On September 8, 2015, Pope Francis made the latest reform by making divorce cheaper and easier for Catholics to remarry.
The Pope is making another historic move today. He's making it easier for Catholics to have their marriages annulled.
Now, previously, Catholics seeking an annulment needed approval from at least 2 church tribunals. Now, the Pope will allow bishops to grant them directly if both spouses request it.
US and Cuba have been at loggerheads for more than 50 years. And the Pope had brokered a deal between President Barack Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro that resulted in renewed relationships between the two countries. This peace treaty between the two countries was not brokered by a politician. It was brokered by the Pope himself. And the Secretary of State of the Vatican, he said this concerning the Pope: the Holy See, diplomacy is always there to help to build bridges. So that is his nature. He is someone who has worked on promoting conglomeration of other faiths and religions.
Pope Francis portrays himself to be a good initiator of peace and as one having great interest in uniting Christian denominations, uniting all religions, and also aiming at unity of all people and culture. In 2013, Pope Francis became the first Catholic leader to call for sincere and rigorous inter-belief dialogue with atheists. During his installation Mass, Pope Francis addressed the ambassadors from the 180 countries, including Muslim leaders, promoting inter-religious dialogue, particularly with Islam. On August 13, 2013, during the Sunday Mass, Pope Francis called on Muslims and Christians to work together. During his Israel visit in May 24 to 26, 2014, Pope Francis concluded his tour by meeting with Patriarch Bartholomew I to continue interfaith dialogue with the Orthodox Church. During his visit to Albania on September 21, 2014, he met with religious leaders including those of the Muslim, Orthodox, Bektashi, Jewish, and Protestant faiths. During his visit to Turkey on November 28 to 30, 2014, Francis visited the Blue Mosque, where he prayed silently alongside senior Islamic clerics. Francis concluded his visit with a liturgy in the Church of St. George alongside Bartholomew I, asking for his blessing for himself and for the Church of Rome. He also urged the reunification between the two churches. During his visit to Sri Lanka on January 13 to 15, 2015, the Pope participated in an inter-religious meeting marked by a Buddhist chant and blessings by Hindu and Muslim clerics.
And in June 27, 2014, evangelical Christian leaders met the Pope in Rome. Who are the evangelical Christian leaders? Reverend James Robinson, Kenneth Copeland, Reverend Geoff Tunnicliffe, Reverend Brian Stiller, Reverend Thomas Shermaker, and Reverend John Arnott. They all met with the Pope and they had an audience with him to talk about a peace alliance between the Protestants and the Catholics.
I just felt very honored and very humbled.
On June 5, 2014, Joel Osteen, senior pastor at America's fastest-growing megachurch, Houston's Lakewood Church, met with Pope Francis at the Vatican. Osteen said it was a great honor to represent the pastors of America. Pastor Rick Warren, founder and pastor of California's well-known Saddleback mega church and author of best-selling books including The Purpose-Driven Life, has called on non-Catholic Christians to join with Pope Francis and the Catholic Church in pursuit of their common goals.
The main thing is love always reaches people. Authenticity, humility. Pope Francis is the perfect example of this. He is doing everything right. You see, people will listen to what we say if they like what they see. And as our new Pope, he was very, very symbolic.
Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio's decision to choose the name of Francis as Pope has profound significance to Muslims regarding Muslim-Christian relations. In 1219, Saint Francis of Assisi left the camp of the Fifth Crusaders besieging the walled Egyptian city of Damietta and crossed enemy lines to meet with Malik al-Kamil, the young Sultan of Egypt, to convert him instead of fighting. Some weeks later, both became friendly and parted with better understanding. Therefore, when this pope was named after Saint Francis of Assisi, the Muslim population looked forward for the same relationship between Christians and Muslims as it was in the days of Saint Francis of Assisi. In the same way, when Pope Francis was appointed as pontiff, he said, "It is not possible to build bridges between people while forgetting God," he said. The Pope continued saying that the converse is also true and it is not possible to establish true links with God while ignoring other people. He further said that it is important to intensify dialogue among the various religions, particularly of dialogue with Islam.
When he was christened by the sign that appeared in the sky, the beast, at that moment, just like, a star appeared when baby Jesus was born. Likewise, this meteor appeared, a star appeared, signaling the birth of the false prophet. And he will be sympathetic to the Muslim nations and to Palestinians' right to self-rule in Israel, and he will favor partition of Jerusalem. Now this word I received in 2013, and it was fulfilled exactly on June 26, 2015, when the Pope formally recognized Palestine as an independent state and signed a treaty between the Vatican and the Palestine, establishing diplomatic relationships.
Pope Francis is very much interested in making peace in Israel. Pope Francis made his 3-day trip to Middle East from May 24 to May 26. All through his speeches, Pope talked about peace and peace alone. Pope Francis has spoken of the importance of peace at most of his public appearances, including at his welcome ceremony in Israel. It was commonly understood among the Jews and Muslims that Pope didn't take one side or the other. He took the side of peace, and so we are. Pope emphasized on the formation and recognition of Palestine, as well as recognition of Israel. Pope is in favor of dividing Israel into Jewish State of Israel and Islamic Republic of Palestine.
Questo luogo dove è nato il principe della pace. Desidero rivolgere un invito a lei, signor Presidente Mahmoud Abbas, e al signor Presidente Shimon Peres ad elevare insieme con me un'intensa preghiera, invocando da Dio il dono della pace. Offro la mia casa in Vaticano per ospitare questo incontro di preghiera.
Both the leaders responded to this call by visiting Vatican. Rabbi Razvan Arusi, a member of the Israel Rabbinical Council and a judge on the Rabbinical Court, said that sometimes where the politicians fail, religion can succeed. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast was and is not and yet is. Retired Israeli President Shimon Peres has proposed a new global peace initiative to Pope Francis, a United Nations of Religions. Peres said, "What we need is an organization of united religions as the best way to combat terrorists who kill in the name of faith." He later went on to say that Pope Francis must be the leader for this United Nations of Religions. The month of September 2015 is going to be a time to remember in the history of the world. In this month, the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah 5776, falls on September 13, 2015. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, falls on September 23, 2015. On this very day, a page is turned in heaven. September 23, Pope Francis arrives at the White House to meet with Barack Obama. Some have suggested that the timing of this event is highly unusual.
Now please take note of this. There are many great world leaders in the world. But the President of the United States, whoever it is always recognized as the great super leader of the whole free world. And the United States is always recognized as a great superpower, like a protector of all nations. So someone who comes and meets President of the US, it means you are someone of great importance.
September 24, the Pope addresses a joint session of the US Congress. Pope Francis is said to become the first leader of the Catholic Church to address both chambers of Congress during his first trip to the United States on September 24, 2015.
Now, when the Pope steps into the US Congress, where all the senators, all the congressmen of the 50 states of the US will be there, they are going to stand up and give him the standing ovation. And US is still regarded as the superpower nation of the whole world. And the United States President, whoever it may be, who comes in that office is regarded as the greatest leader on planet Earth. So if someone gets an audience with the President of the United States and stands in the Congress and addresses the Congress, so he is a highly, very highly important world leader. He gets instant recognition, instant authority, instant power, and instant open door to all the nations of the world, and his weight, his word carries lot of weight.
Pope Francis would visit New York on September 25th to address world leaders at the General Assembly on its 70th anniversary.
And when he stands there, all these world leaders from 200 odd nations will stand to give him a standing ovation. They will clap their hands and they will say, "No one has spoken like he has spoken." And it is that time power and authority will be given unto him. It is another christening. You know, the Bible tells us that the beast gave its power, the first beast gave its power to the second beast. So when that visit is made in the UN, the whole world, leaders, kings will be gathered there. And that will be a great recognition of secondment to this false prophet who will rise up.
Irish priest Saint Malachi, who lived in the 12th century, had a vision of all the popes who would reign after his time on a visit to Rome. Saint Malachi prophesied in 1139. The prophecy read thus: "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit, that is, as bishop, Peter the Roman, who will pasture a sheep in many tribulations, and when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills, that is Rome, will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people." The end. When he had prophesied, there were already 156 popes who were in papacy. He prophesied about the remaining forthcoming 112 popes. According to his prophecy, Pope Francis is that final pope. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast which was full of names of blasphemy, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, and the woman whom you saw is that great city. Rome is the city of 7 hills, and according to Saint Malachi, this final pope will lead the church into many tribulations.
The beast that we just saw is rising. He's going to come and sit on his throne to do that which it has been predestinated to do. Now you know what is going to happen next? Once he takes his throne, the next thing that will take place is he is going to introduce the Antichrist. And we say, this is the Messiah. This is the Christ that we should all follow. Not only loving exhortation, it says it will make the whole world to worship. It will cause, the word cause means force. Force to worship. The second thing that will happen is a law will be passed that not to pray to any other god, not to be associated with any other church except the authorized ecumenical one world church. You cannot pray to any other god. You cannot go to any other church. You cannot things like this. You cannot worship in your churches. All licenses cancelled. Get out. You cannot renew your licenses. What are you going to do? Where are you going to meet? Back to the first century house church. Amen. Satan will give power to the beasts to do signs and great wonders. When we say signs and wonders, we always think of miracles, healings, this and that. But what I was shown is this. The signs in the heavens. What signs in heaven? He will cause to appear images of Mary crying and hugging people. Will also cause Mary to appear in visions, dreams, talking to people, prophesying. Have you heard of such things taking place in the past? I'm sure you've heard sporadically. It has taken place everywhere. But these will become very common in the last days. So much so, everybody will think that this is the one true living goddess. One God, because she's appearing everywhere. Like a great mother with great love, hugging. You know, if you look at all the major religions of the world, all of them have a woman as the chief goddesses. In Hinduism, the chief among all the gods is a woman, a goddess called Kali. In the Chinese, it's Kuan Yin, right? It's a woman. And then in Ephesians, it's Diana. In Europe, it's Diana. In all the religions you see, there's always a woman. And who's that real woman? Is none other than Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth, the queen of heaven. She is the one that will appear masquerading like all these other gods in all these various religions. And this Mary Ashtaroth worship will spread all over the world. Let me tell you something about Mother Mary. Whenever I speak about her, I always address her with great respect. Because she's a saint. But not in the Catholic sense of my belief, I believe in the Bible way of a sainthood. What follows next is a huge company of false prophets will rise up in the last days. And you will have a huge company of false teachers who will not only teach wrong doctrines, but they will teach how the people can tap into the soulish spiritual realm to do astral travel in the spiritual realm and claim to have visitation with aliens and having visited different worlds and different star systems.
On May 13, 2014, during his homily, Pope Francis said that he would welcome alien life forms into the open arms of the Catholic Church. This is what he said. If tomorrow an expedition of aliens from Mars arrives, and one of the green ones with long nose and big ears, like those which children draw, comes and says, "I want a baptism," what would happen? For years, Vatican astronomers are looking for extraterrestrials from their oldest astronomical research institutions in the world. And they are using two powerful telescopes. One is Vatican's own Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, and the telescope called Lucifer. Both are situated on Mount Graham in Arizona, USA. In recent years, the Vatican has really taken a position of leadership in the search for extraterrestrial life. On March 2014, the Vatican Observatory co-sponsored a major conference on extraterrestrial life that brought together 200 of the leading astrobiologists in the world. One of the organizers stated that one of the goals of the conference was to figure out how we can find life among the stars within the next 2 decades. The former head of the Vatican Observatory, Jose Gabriel Funes, an Argentine Jesuit priest and astronomer, does not believe that there is any conflict between his faith and the search for life beyond this world. He said, just as there is a multiplicity of creatures on earth, there can be other beings, even intelligent, created by God. He believes that the human race might be the lost sheep of the universe, and there could be other beings who remained in full friendship with their Creator. The current head of the Vatican Observatory, Guy Consolmagno, the Jesuit priest and an American research astronomer, has publicly suggested that the aliens could actually be the saviors of humankind. So what would happen if aliens appear and say that they will guide the people of the earth and lead us into a new golden age? Will the Catholic Church accept it? Actually, they are expecting aliens to save the humankind. And Pope Francis has already opened the doors for the aliens. Even now, Pope Francis has an opinion that humans are destroying the earth, so he is preparing a speech on climate change to address in the 70th UN General Assembly. The aliens that they are expecting are none other than the fallen angels. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The fallen angels are the ones whom God threw down from the highest place to the mid-heavens. Apostle John saw in a vision that God showed him that in the last days there will be a war in heaven. Michael and his angels will fight against Lucifer and his angels. Michael will win the war and cast out Lucifer and his angels from the mid-heavens to the earth. When Lucifer and the fallen angels are thrown to the earth, even now Vatican astronomers are looking for Lucifer through Lucifer telescope. During a homily in Rome, Pope Francis said that God redeems everyone, not just Christians, but atheists as well. So people can go to heaven by doing good, even if they don't believe in Lord Jesus.
So we are at a threshold now, at a season of transition. Blood moon, September 28.
The Feast of Tabernacles falls on September 28, 2015. The final blood moon also appears on September 28, 2015. This final blood moon of this tetrad will be a supermoon. The September 28, 2015 moon will be the closest to the Earth for the year, creating a super blood moon. The last 3 blood moons of this tetrad was not seen in Israel, but was seen in the US. The final blood moon of this tetrad, however, will be seen both in the US and Israel.
My dearly beloved brothers and sisters, we are in a season, a very important season, where all the end time revelations or prophecies spoken of in the Bible are going to come to pass. You are living in the end times, in the last days. Your eyes are going to see the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ.
All these events, including the appearing of the 4 blood moons, the commencement of the 70th UN General Assembly, Pope Francis has visited the US and his efforts and agenda he is planning to enact on his visit to the US, the proposed unity of religions and the efforts to divide Israel and Jerusalem falling on the Jewish feast days, shows without a shadow of doubt that we are living in the last days. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered.